Spoilers! You've been warned.
There once was an ancient being with a weird name, whose followers got sick of playing his game. Their failed assassination put him into hibernation. When he awoke, things weren't quite the same. Meanwhile, Mystique is busy saving mutants. Professor X takes on some new students. Magneto's got a daughter and a wife. Then tragedy takes their life, so he's back to treating people as rodents. Apocalypse gets filled in on all the deets. He teams up with the first 4 mutants he meets. With the help of Magneto, they use Charles and Cerebro to destroy all the world's nuclear fleets. Next, he'll use Magneto to cause total destruction. I guess the others are just there for protection. He'll then steal Charles's ability and control all of us with telepathy. Then he'll begin his new world construction. Now Hank and Mystique must form a new team to help them put a stop to this new evil scheme. They find some volunteers to begin their X-Men careers and fill them with a new sense of esteem. They steal some military suits and a plane with the help of Wolverine again. It's mutant on mutant warfare on both the ground and the air. Can the X-Men end Apocalypse's reign? That one was a bit short. Though, that's probably because there's really not much else to this movie, which left me wondering if maybe there were some things that got cut for time. That's not really a criticism, as what we do have here racks up to a fairly enjoyable X-Men movie, which is exactly what this is. It's an X-Men movie. Now, what I mean by that is, when you look back at the original trilogy of X-Men movies, they're kind of not as great as we remember them to be. They're those rare kinds of movies that most people look back on fondly, but if you actually rewatch them, you realize that they don't really hold up anymore. There's nothing really all that groundbreaking about them, other than the decision to put superheroes in a realistic setting rather than a cartoonish one as previous films had done. They also have all the gay/race prejudice undertones, which are great and deal with some serious issues that are still relevant today. But on the whole, the first X-Men movie is kind of just an average action film. The second one we all think of as being great simply because it was better than the first one. It's a good action movie with a fantastic screenplay, but taken as a whole, it still has the same problems as the first one. Then the third one came along and was so much worse than the second film that now it's considered the bad X-Men movie, despite it actually not being that bad. It was still pretty bad though. Nowhere near as bad as Wolverine Origins though, but I'm gonna follow Fox's and Bryan Singer's approach to this one and just pretend that it never happened and not talk about it. So now we come to this new set of films, which are basically just an attempt at a soft reboot whilst also disguising it as a prequel series, which is already a weird place to start since they are actively trying to show us the backstory to all the other films, whilst also actively ignoring and retconning all the backstory to the other films to the point of having next to no recognizable continuity. But that's the thing about the X-Men movies, isn't it? When you watch them, most of them are just really enjoyable experiences despite all the flaws. It's only after looking back at them and really thinking over do you realize that there was anything amiss about them in the first place. But these aren't the kind of movies we need to be thinking about. These are just big, in-your-face, blockbuster action popcorn movies. They're there to be enjoyed, and in all honesty, they've got like an 80% success rating for doing that, and X-Men Apocalypse is definitely a part of that 80%. It's a really enjoyable action film with a pretty standard bad guy wants to take over the world by destroying it plot that you really don't need to be paying too much attention to follow. The costumes and makeup and a few scenes here and there are at times a little hokey, and the sets feel out of place in the 80s setting. The special effects range from being really cool to looking really bad to the point where I started to wonder if maybe Fox cut this film's budget during the editing stage. Especially when you have a real good look at the awful special effects makeup on Apocalypse and Scumbag Hank. Sorry. Scumbag Hank is what I call Beast now, because the man created a serum that could literally cure paralysis with no side effects to ordinary humans that can be administered the same way you give insulin to a diabetic, and instead of marketing this and selling it to people who need it, he hoards it all for himself to cure his skin condition. Anyway, I digress. Once you're able to look past all that stuff, along with the action sequences that are handled about as well as you'd expect Bryan Singer to handle them, overall what you get is a fairly enjoyable experience, even if it's not a great one. Even the gratuitous Wolverine cameo is awesome, even though the only point I can see to having it there is for fan service and to allow the team to conveniently steal a military plane from a Weapon X bunker that also just so happens to have a bunch of spare flight suits lying around that are oddly enough in everyone's sizes. However, the fact that these sequences are so great is enough to distract us from this. Another element that really helped to distract people during these films that all of them, even the bad ones, have nailed is the cast. One thing these movies have always done well is that they tell very personal stories using these characters along with the excellent ensemble cast made up of some truly great talent. The old films had some iconic and, let's face it, perfect casting with Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. If I'm honest though, I think that Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy could wind up being just as iconic in the roles. Those two continue to nail it in these roles and are great to watch on screen. Nicholas Hoult is perfectly fine as Scumbag Hank, though at times I do find myself missing Kelsey Grammer in in the role. All the kids coming in taking over for Jean, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler are all pretty great. I don't hate them, that's for sure, and Sophie Turner managed to win me over with her accent. Jennifer Lawrence is probably the only bad performance here, though it's nowhere near as bad as her just blankly staring her way through the last one. Her performance is really just more inconsistent than anything else. I'll give a special mention here to Oscar Isaac, since he's doing all he can given the amount of crap he's got all over his face, but at least he's clearly trying to give his all in this performance, and he really does pull it off. Major disappointments are how underused the new Storm and Angel are, along with Olivia Munn in her role as Psylocke, but hopefully we'll see more of them somewhere down the line. And by the looks of things, Bryan Singer might actually balls up Matthew Vaughn style and give us some comic accurate costumes for once. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that this one weights somewhere in the middle. I would recommend it, but only if you really like X-Men movies. Otherwise, you can probably wait for the DVD or Netflix release. Hey, if you enjoyed watching this video, why not check out some of my others? If you like listening to me review movies, I did one on Captain America Civil War that you can see over here. Or if you just like hearing me ramble about superheroes, I did a video on Batman vs Superman that you can see over here. Links to these videos can be found in the description underneath. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed, please let me know. You can like and share, subscribe if you dare, and please leave a comment below.